If something's in front of you, you kill it. No hiding, no waiting. You keep going.
You're listening to 89.5 The Wave, KCFV Ferguson.
Your property now belongs to me.
This is Dead Air.
You're gonna feel pretty stupid when you find out.
Find out what?
They're screwing with the wrong people.
That is right. We are back with the one, the only Dead Air here on 89.5 The Wave. I'm your host, your friendly neighborhood DJ JazzHandss, and today I'm going to be joined with Paul and Anna Mae. Good morning, guys. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning, JazzHandss.
Thank you for having us.
Again. So let's just kind of dive right into it because it was, first off, an awesome episode.
Oh, yeah. Love
agree.
this one.
Also, give me a second. I'm going to get away from the mic for this, and you may want to get your headphones off just for a second.
Might want to turn your radio down just a smidge, people.
Yeah.
Just a little. Rick showed his kidding!
Yep. It's finally...
I called it! I kept calling it!
It's finally an actual thing. Like... Everybody who wanted those two characters to be together, and it finally came to a head.
And there have been a lot of people who've really, really pushed for that. You know, and it's interesting because did you guys watch the Talking Dead afterwards?
Of course.
Yeah.
Because they had mentioned that they were starting to kind of build towards this, and I have to admit, I kind of started seeing it in season 4.
I can agree with that.
After the prison escape, you started seeing them lay the foundations for the Rick Michonne partnership.
Mm-hmm.
They started building that friendship and that closeness between Rick and Michonne, but not only that, between Carl and Michonne.
Oh, definitely. I started seeing a lot more of a... well, I always saw Michonne as taking Carl under her protective motherly wing, and it really kind of showed more that Carl accepted her, especially after the prison and having to kill his mother. He opened himself up more to having a woman in his life to take the place for his mother.
It goes to show kind of like, and I believe somebody from Talking Dead said it best, you know, in this world, you need to find somebody that's going to survive, and who better to survive, to start a relationship with than your, I guess, quote-unquote, right-hand man.
Yeah, I mean, you know, to be honest, I really thought that Jesse's character was going to have a little bit longer of a story arc.
I'm glad she didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've expressed that. But I really thought they were going to build on that, and they were going to build on how she was going to get along without Pete and, you know, the boys and everything. And I thought that was going to go a little bit longer. I started to have my doubts when Sam couldn't keep his mouth shut.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's probably one of the two biggest things to happen this episode.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot that happened within this episode as a whole. And one other thing I gotta say real quick, I'm glad that the Michonne and Rick thing happened and not the Rick and Daryl thing happened. Because that would have been...
It was a nice little buddy comedy like
Actually,
they mentioned.
it's kind of funny because they had two different... They had a bromance and a romance in the same episode.
Yeah,
they did.
And we figured out that Rick's a little bit more redneck than Daryl with this episode and choice in the music.
With his
At least
musical
from
choice.
Georgia. So.
Yeah, which I didn't actually get at first until I watched it again last night.
Yeah.
Why he blasted that music and stuff, because it lures them away from home.
Yeah.
I didn't get that until he said that last night. I was like, oh, that's actually a really smart and fun idea. You're making yourself open, but
he didn't just do it to annoy Daryl.
Well, it's a little...
I think there was a little of that, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of column
Just
A,
do
a
it
little
to
bit of
annoy
column
him,
B.
so...
Real quick, and this is kind of going to be for both of you, because we enter into a 2-month time skip instead of that, like a day or a couple days later. Story-wise, what do you think about that?
I think the skip was good, at least in my point. Instead of going like a week or a couple of weeks, the 2 months shows that, you know, there would have been more better for off-screen kind of stuff. You know, we would have had them rebuilding the walls of Alexandria, which you saw that they did if they're able to come and go from that spot where the cars come in, and that nice little sign that they made, which I did love. So I say again, I think the skip was good. So it just shows the progression that the group has made from their big loss.
I would tend to agree, and I'm even going to go a little bit further. I think they needed to do a skip like that. Number one, you know, I mean, how long can we watch Carl lay in bed? Number two, the first half of the season was 2 days condensed over 8 episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, they really, really kind of needed, and realistically, the first episode of the mid-season was that same time period.
Yeah.
So we really needed to have kind of a jump, and I think it helped to get the characters back to something a little bit normal. And I really think with as much as the first part of this season was condensed, they really needed to have that skip and say, okay, so time has passed. Carl is up and walking around, and I love that he was so annoying bouncing that ball.
Yeah.
That was just great.
Yeah, I know. My whole thoughts on like the whole time skip thing is that it's good, and I do agree. I think it's needed, and I'm wondering if they're going to have flashbacks, because one of the major key things that I'm wondering definitely about is with Carol and Morgan, how everything with that kind of played out,
And that's something that I'm interesting because I find interesting because I think Rick is going to hear it from both sides.
yeah,
Because
Yeah.
I think Morgan and Carol both witnessed the wolf. Okay, yes, he did get away. He did get Denise, but then he tried to save Denise, and he really kind of had his little turnaround. So I'm interested to see that flashback.
yeah, especially
Yeah.
because now Rick's listening,
Yes.
Yeah.
and that's going to be interesting to see that full
Interesting.
story arc. So, okay, switching gears just a little bit.
Okay.
now. We got to talk about him. He's new, he's fun, and honestly, he was introduced in the most fun way. What are your guys' thoughts on Jesus?
I was personally not a fan. I mean, I thought the approach to him was interesting, and I thought it was kind of cool that he was a pickpocket. And basically, I think he's literally Jesus. He's unkillable. This guy seems to be able to take a hit from anything until he got thrown off of a truck and Daryl beat the crap out of him. That he was at least knocked out for a little while. I mean, it's like he got out of Rick's tying thing. Which,
First off, I want to say something about that, because you could see Jesus literally kicked both Rick and Daryl's ass with no real problem until they got the upper hand and pulled the gun out on him.
Yeah.
yeah.
You would think I probably got to tie that a little bit tighter, because he's more than likely going to know how to get out, and I want to know how he did get out.
By
super
the
quick.
way, can I say my favorite scene
oh yeah, go
Go
for
ahead.
it.
with Jesus
Yeah.
was, do you guys even have any ammunition? And Rick and Daryl saw the walker in
Yes.
the woods and just both blam! He's like, okay, you do? Okay, all right, I'm just going to sit here.
That was
Yeah.
like a Pulp Fiction moment. Just
Yeah.
a
It
standing there with
It
the
was
guns.
like, and it was funny because they talked about Norman Reedus and Andrew Lincoln watching Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid
Yep.
before that scene. So they could have that coordination of, yes, we do. Okay, good enough.
That's
Yeah,
fun.
I like Jesus. I like the way they introduced him. I think we're going to find out a lot more about him in the next episode, especially with his little walk-in.
Here's the one thing that I kind of want to know is I'm wondering how Jesus got out of the room, because Daryl was watching him.
Daryl was, and then he said someone was going to relieve him. So they were going to have 24-hour surveillance on this guy, and yet he got out of his binds, out past whoever was watching him, which I'm willing to bet wasn't Daryl, because I don't think Daryl would have let him out of his
Well,
sight.
it could be Daryl, because I could see, because if we saw the preview for next week's episode, we see Maggie and Glenn talking, and then we hear like a loud bang, and everybody kind of starts running towards that area again.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if he just kind of hit Daryl upside the head. Daryl kind of passed out, and then Jesus kind of snuck out the back and ran, and the first thing we're going to see from Daryl is "son of a bitch conked me" or something like that. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
You could be right on that. I mean, Jesus has shown that he is very resourceful. He's not above using a little trickery to get what he wants.
Yeah. It seems like he's very resourceful, but he's also able to kind of pick up on people, like how Daryl and Rick can pick up on people.
Yeah.
Because he went to them first. Granted, it was to pick their pockets and everything like that, but then he kept kind of messing with them throughout the entire
Yep.
episode. And, you know, he never even pulled the gun out on them. He saved Daryl.
I was going to say, the only time he pointed a gun at either of them was when he looked at Daryl and said,
Duck.
duck,
Yeah, which was a beautiful scene,
Oh,
and then
it was.
Daryl clocked him, which was...
and took the gun back.
Yeah, which was
Yeah.
my favorite. My gun.
I
Just-
love that.
I assume if Jesus' characters, which we talked a little bit about it, Paul, and I want to, because he's very clean shaven.
Yeah.
He's
They
very
even
clean-shaven.
remarked on that in the episode. He's clean, his clothes are clean, His beard is trimmed.
Yeah.
So the story about him being alone
So-
might not be the truth.
Well, and because we can kind of talk a little bit about the comics and make like the links, because I still don't know a lot about Jesus, but I know that there's a civilization called Hilltop
Hilltop.
in the comics, and what I'm assuming that Jesus' role is going to be is that he's somebody from Hilltop, kind of like how Daryl or Aaron is for Alexandria. They go out and scout people, because why? Essentially, if you were just a lone drifter or whatever, you wouldn't go through that much trouble to get that truck. And I really think that this Hilltop thing's going to come in, because he says it's, welcome to the next world.
Well, he said your world's about to get a lot bigger.
Yeah.
But
that
then he
was it.
also said welcome to the either new world or next world.
Yeah.
I think it was
when he
New
ran
World, I
when he
think.
was running from Rick and
Yeah.
Daryl.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think when he says the world's about to get a whole lot bigger, I think now we're going to get into the Hilltop stuff, and I think we're also going to be definitely introduced. I don't know if they're going to be outright saying, but I think Negan's group's going to be the one that's influencing, and Jesus is going to be like, or that's messing with Hilltop, and Jesus is like, oh, these people saved me. They have muscle. Because essentially, and think about it too, like Negan's like, hey, give me all your stuff. I need all your stuff. That's another good reason to get that truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. But I agree with you. I think that Jesus walking in at the very end, when he was, talking about, we need to talk.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is going to have a big thing as far as Hilltop, as far as introducing them to the other societies, and I think part of the reason is just that. I think it's going to be, hey, look, we can trade, we can do things, and we need to warn you. I think that's part of the reason is we need to warn you about this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's got us, and he's not that far because we're not that far. I think maybe we need to, work together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to basically ask his version of the 3 questions.
So I think it's going to be interesting, and I'm excited very much to see where Jesus' character goes. Stay tuned, because we need to take a quick break.
Okay.
And we'll be back to Dead Air here in a little bit, because we're just scratching the surface of what's still going to happen. So stay tuned. We'll be back here in a little bit.
We gotta go, Beth. We gotta go.
Bad ideas were an Olympic event. This would take the gold.
Dead Air is back on 89.5 The Wave with Jazz Hands.
Today's your lucky day, fellas. You've been pardoned by the state of Georgia. You're free to go.
That is right. We are back to Dead Air here on 89.5 The Wave. I'm your host, your friendly neighborhood DJ, JazzHandss. Unfortunately, Paul had to leave for a minute, but we still have the one, the only anime in the studio. We're hanging out. We're talking about last Sunday's epic Walking Dead episode. Spoiler warning: there are going to be definite spoilers ahead. We talked a little bit about Rick and Michonne's relationship finally, coming to a head. We talked a little bit about Jesus being introduced, and we talked about some other stuff too. So let's kind of also jump right in. Carl and Enid, like, these two characters have definitely been through some changes within the last couple months, and I think we really definitely see that Enid's kind of starting to open up more. And I had a little theory about Enid, and I want to know what you think, Anna.
Okay.
I said this, I think, last week, but I'm going to say it again, and I think especially because of the opening scene. I think for the comics, Sophia's still alive, and she kind of gets adopted by Glenn and Maggie. Mm-hmm. I think Enid's going to fill that role.
Yeah, I was noticing that too with their interactions. Although the way Enid's acting, it was somebody's tweet, I think, with a kid like Enid, Glenn and Maggie may want to rethink about parenting. It's like, they'll handle it. They can handle Enid.
Yeah.
They can handle any child.
Well, yeah, and I think definitely Glenn has had such an impact on her, and we really see that in this episode, because before, when you think about it, she wanted to go out, she wanted to leave, she wanted to kill the walkers, be around them. She was kind of going through that post-traumatic stress syndrome that we saw a lot of the group go through. But now, especially, I think when Glenn mentioned to her, hey, find that person, they're still here, find that thing you want. And that even parallels kind of with what Deanna said.
Yeah.
You know, find that thing you want and, you know, hold on to it, keep it, move forward with it. I think she took that to heart, and now she doesn't need to go out there anymore. But she still disappears. She's still a loner, but she's in the town. You notice that Maggie said, you know, for the last 2 months we've been working on this town and I haven't seen you.
Yeah, it's like, have you been up in your room? No. It's like she was very defensive about what she was doing. But it's like with Maggie reiterating that about, you know, this is our place. We're trying to rebuild this. It's like, where are you? You're a part of our community, a part of our family. And I think it's just taking Enid, just taking her a while to have to get used to everything like she was. I mean, she was used to the old community and she didn't really care about any of the residents until, I'd say, Carl came around. And then she made a connection with him because he had been out in that world, but he had a lot more experience than she did.
Yeah, well, and now it definitely seems like the roles have kind of switched just a little. And I don't think that it was Maggie kind of like, you know, saying, where were you? How come you haven't been helping? I think it was, you know, I haven't seen you. You helped me. I'm going to...
Yeah, no. It was that she cared, and it was just kind of Enid being taken aback by how much she had noticed that she was gone. It's like someone actually... You know, like they had mentioned before when the group first got there, it's like, oh, Enid just goes off all the time. We don't know where she goes. We don't, you know, she comes back. She's fine. But Maggie, you know, going, you know, being concerned as a mother, like, you know, where were you? You know, we didn't see you. Well, I haven't seen you. I'm worried about you.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's definitely kind of opening up a relationship that she hasn't gotten before, because you know, you can have people around you all the time say, oh, you know, welcome, we're a family, but it doesn't mean anything until somebody actually is like, hey, I noticed you haven't been here, or I've noticed you've been going through some stuff. You okay? What's going on?
Right.
That's when it's like, okay, these people are noticing me more, and you're going to kind of gravitate towards those people, and you're going to want to stay. And even though Maggie did make that kind of interaction between her and Carl, she still wanted to stay into the town because it seems like Carl now is the one that has to go out and she's kind of following around.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's like before it was Carl trying to get Enid to come back to Alexandria, and now it's Carl's the one, like you said, roaming about, and Enid's like, can we just go? I don't want to be out here anymore.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think that says about Carl?
For what I would say is he's like, once they hit Alexandria, his character development like went from, you know, we can't, it's like we need to trust these people, and it's like he does just like his father, but I think he's still got that edge to him that Rick is kind of like, well, you know, I can listen to everyone, everything's going to be okay. And Carl's like, well, we still have to be on our guard. We can't just be lax. These past 2 months, you know, nothing big has happened or we would have seen it. So we still need to be on guard. We can't just, you know, relax and just go crazy with our supplies, which is probably why they're so low in this. They're getting low in this episode. So he's still got the edge, I think, and it's, especially with the loss of the eye, he's more on edge, so he needs to feel like he's still in control despite the loss of one of his eyes.
Yeah, and I can understand that, like, or he's not wanting to take that chance anymore because he gave Ron that chance.
Yeah, and
Ron,
what did it cost him?
It backfired on him greatly. And so I could see him being definitely wary of people both inside the town and out of it now, and only kind of gravitating and just wanting to be by himself, because he's gone from, oh, I want to trust these people, to, well, because of the wolf attack, there's probably still people definitely out here. Mm-hmm. And because of everything with Ron and, you know, Jesse and Sam, we can't, they almost got us killed. I can't put that guard down. I can't relax. I need to be on guard. And I think that, because that kind of, I think, was also happening a little bit with Daryl. Yeah. I think running into Negan's group definitely kind of messed him up a little bit too, because before he was like, we need to go find people, we need to go get people, we need to go do this, we need to go do that. And now he's like, I think you were right, Rick, we don't need people. And Rick's the one that's saying, no, we do need to find people, I was wrong.
Yeah.
So what do you think's going on with Daryl there?
Yeah, I completely agree that it was because he ran into Negan's group and he almost lost, his life, and he almost lost Abraham and Sasha. The roles have pretty much switched from the beginning when they were in Alexandria, because it was Daryl like, this is a new community, this is a new start, we can keep building this place, and Rick going, no, we have our group, that's it. And now it's versed from, we need more people. We lost so many from the wolves and the walker attack, mostly from the wolves, but from the attacks that we had. So we need to build up our community again. It's like, no, if we could handle what we did in the attack, why do we need any more if we were able to take all of these walkers down with our group?
Well, I think, too, it's one of those things where because he was also burned with the one guy and his girlfriend, and which I'm pretty sure is almost but confirmed to be Dwight.
Yeah, I think so.
The guy that stole his motorcycle, I think he tried twice. He's run into people twice out there, and both times they've kind of screwed him over.
Yep.
I do think that his character has kind of become a little bit more secluded. And this is what I love about the show, too, is that, like, in reality, people do, like, flip-flop back and forth about what's kind of right and what's wrong. And I think it's very normal and very human of Daryl, especially for a character like Daryl, who is more secluded, more this and that, and then to be like, no, we don't need any more people, we don't need this, we don't need that. Whereas before he was like, I want to go get people, I want to try to help people. It's normal, and I think if he didn't go through it already, he's kind of going through what Rick was going through.
Yeah.
Just on a slight little bit less of a arc in certain senses, because Rick's gone through, I don't trust anybody too. I'm listening now, and we need to trust it, and I'm hoping that stays. And I really hope, especially with everything with Negan that's going to be coming up and stuff like that, I'm really hoping that we still see a Rick that can go into that beast mode and then shut it down if he sees somebody and be like, you're not a bad person, you're going to come with us, and you're going to be a part of our family now.
Yeah, and that's what has me worried, is like, if he's become so lax and more trusting towards people and listening to people, people like Jesus, where it's like, they're all alone, and they end up taking your stuff. So it's like, how lax can you be with someone who might end up doing basically what Dwight and the other person did to Daryl, which is screwing you over so many times, going, well, maybe I shouldn't trust so many new people.
But I mean, I think that's one of the whole things that's supposed to be about, like, this season and all the seasons in general, besides just survival. It's that you have to be able to trust people to move forward. And he even said about, the doctor. Denise.
Yeah.
He even said about Denise, we didn't know her, she didn't know us anything, and she still helped Carl.
Yeah.
So it's like, there are still good people, genuinely good people out there, and I think everything with Jesus, if what we were talking about is right, Hilltop's going to come into play, and he's going to still be like that. And so I'm really hoping that we get a Rick now moving forward, that he goes into battle mode when he has to be, and he beats this beast and this awesome badass that we need for a leader. But then he can also take a step back and do something like he did at the hospital, which, granted, I hate the hospital arc.
Yeah,
but
I know.
It was one of the more better moments of Rick going from, hey, we're doing this, we're getting this people, we're going to kill all these people, to at the end being like, if anybody wants to come with us, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping we kind of get that Rick, but a little bit more defined. I'm excited to see where Rick and like all these characters are going to go. So we're almost out of time. Now, what are your thoughts on, like, the whole Spencer and Michonne arc? Like, why do you think it was so important for Spencer? Because that's one thing that we were just talking about too. How the hell did Deanna get outside the walls?
I would love if they actually did even just a mini minor flashback in the episodes to come about how she did that, seeing that from her eyes. It'd be something for the audience. It wouldn't be really anything for the people, obviously in Alexandria, but it would be something to crave our curiosity, because we were bouncing all kinds of plot ideas off air during the break. And it's just, we're trying to think how she could have gotten out and not be so ripped and torn up like we figured she would have been after she fired off her shots. Her gun was empty, and she did her what'd you say, her Jewish mom scream? Isn't
Yeah,
that what you
her
said?
Jewish mom scream.
Yeah. It's like, how did she get out, you know?
My whole idea was that she closed the door after she did the scream, and then the walkers couldn't get into the door, and they kind of kept running up against it, and eventually it broke, but by the time it broke through, she had already turned. And then once when she turned, the rocket launcher went off, so all of them just started pouring out of the house, and she just slipped into the crowd.
Yeah.
Do you think, Spencer Wise, do you think it was definitely important for him to have closure with his mother, especially because of how rude and how bad he was towards her beforehand? Do you think he definitely feels guilty about that, or?
I would say definitely he feels guilty about it. As he made the point too, it's like it's like in this close amount of time, it's like all my family, they're gone, they're dead. And it's like he was seeing, you know, what had happened when he heard about what happened to Aiden. He blamed Deanna. He blamed Reg for, you know, letting Rick's group do what they did, even though it wasn't their fault. It was Aiden being a stupid idiot.
Yeah.
But he blamed her, and I think the blame that he put on her was I wouldn't say it wasn't intended, but it wasn't meant for her. It was just he had to take his aggression on somebody, and unfortunately it was his mother. So he really didn't get to give closure to her about, you know, it wasn't your fault. You know, they did this because they had to, because my brother's stupid. So he put the blame on her and really didn't get a chance to give that closure. So when he found her still alive, it's like, I can at least give some closure to her by not letting this thing that is in my mother, that was my mother, is not my mother anymore, and letting her be properly put to rest.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, do you think that there's also do you think that there was a little bit of a parallel between him and Enid kind of being more accepted into like the Rick group or into the family hierarchy or whatever, because Michonne was the only one that really noticed him as well when he kept walking away and leaving and stuff.
Yeah, well, like she said, it's like I noticed you going out into the woods a lot. You know, what's going on here? It's like, well, and I think Michonne saw a lot of her own earlier parallels when we first saw her in the woods.
I was just gonna say that, yeah.
You know, by herself, wanting to go do this stuff. And I say he was actually not only a mix of Michonne, but a bit of Sasha, too, after she lost her brother. That she just wanted to go out and just, instead of just him wanting to kill random walkers, he saw Deanna the one time and it's like, I have to do this. I can't have my closure with her. I can't feel like I actually contributed something because, you know, I couldn't protect my mother. I couldn't protect my father. I couldn't protect the walls, which was my job. So he's got all this weight on him, and it's like going after Deanna, I think, would helped him kind of get that guilt off his chest. That's like, none of this really was my fault. It's like, and I acted like a complete D-bag.
Yeah. So, real quick, because we're almost out of time. We got like a minute or two left. So, predictions on next week's episode. What do you think's going to happen?
Ooh, well, I think you were right in saying that Glenn and Maggie, you know, they had their little cute thing at the garden wherever they're setting it up, and then they hear the boom, and that's probably we're gonna see Houdini getting out and sneaking past Daryl or whoever it is. I'm willing to bet it's not Daryl, but who knows? I could be wrong. And doing, you know, getting into the house, and then we're gonna pick right back off with him in the room with Rick and Michonne, and then maybe they at least have a blanket around them. I don't know. They probably won't show anything. It's too bad, but that he's gonna explain Hilltop to Rick and Michonne, and going, look, the reason I took your guys' stuff was because I needed it for my group, and you guys are actually, you're not just this couple of buddies looking for your own supplies. You have a community here. You have people who can help me. It's like, I'll help you, you help me. We can make a compromise here. We can make a trade.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I think we're just going to pick right back off with them.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to happen. I think he did, like, you know, knock Daryl out or something. But we see them, you know, we've seen in the little clips, we see them going, you know, to a place. He's taken him to a place, so I really think he is going to take him to Hilltop.
Or maybe at least give them a view, you know, maybe not go right back up, because that would give them a chance to be caught. Maybe like somewhere that's nearby, you know, maybe in the woods or something, or like by a hill where they can see it. And it's like, this is what my camp was. This is my community, and this very bad guy took it over, and I need your guys' help.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to be getting more into the saviors. And I definitely think this upcoming episode is going to be the road to
Hilltop.
The road to Hilltop, and I think it's gonna tie in, like I said, and I definitely think now we're gonna start getting into the more of the saviors, and if we already get to Hilltop and they start talking about, you know, Negan's group, it could very well be possible that Negan's men come and tries to get, you know, Hilltop's due, and then Rick and the gang fight back.
Yeah.
And then they realize, oh, there's new people here. Huh. Let's do this. And, of course, if there's Hilltop, you might have some Negan supporters inside. And so there's a lot that could possibly happen.
So many new opportunities opened with this.
Yep. All I know is that we're out of time, unfortunately.
Aww.
But it was a fantastic episode. I absolutely loved it. Thanks, everybody, so much for tuning in. I had a blast. And we will see you next week.